Welcome to Martech CXO Dialogues. This is a podcast by Niswey, where we speak to CXOs from some of the biggest and brightest enterprises in India and have them share the strategies, learnings, and insights that led them to drive massive Martech-enabled growth in their organizations. I'm Suma, co-founder at Niswey.
And I'm Adarsh Noronha, HubSpot Country Director for India and SAARC. And together, we will uncover what it takes to find success with Martech in the Indian business context.
Joining us on Martech CXO Dialogues today is Sanjay Motwani. He's the Vice President Asia Pacific at Legrand Data Center Solutions. Sanjay brings over 30 years of experience as a growth and transformation leader, working with some of the most trusted B2B brands. And today he's here to help us get down to some of the unchanging fundamentals of B2B sales.
Welcome to the next episode of Martech CXO Dialogues. And what is exciting for today is that we have a sales legend in our midst. And I'm happy to welcome Sanjay Motwani. And along with him, I have Adarsh from HubSpot. And we are going to have a lot of conversation around B2B sales because both are B2B sales legends. And this is going to be fun, people. Let's get in. Addy, you want to start off?
Absolutely. And it's a privilege to meet somebody like Mr. Motwani. And I think some of us who have been fortunate to have had an experience as long as Sanjay does, would have seen the industry grow, would have seen the technologies come and go, would have seen the processes changing, would have seen various genre of people coming and working under his team. I know I'm trying not to make you sound old, but giving you extra credits for the number of years you spent in the industry. That's all I meant. I could sense it with the grin as I was talking about it. Now, I think for me, what I'm very keen to hear from Sanjay is for our audiences, especially those who are immersed in B2B sales, what are the fundamentals that they should not forget when they engage their business. But I think we will go deeper and deeper, but very keen to hear before we kick started, Sanjay, if you could share your experiences with the companies that you've been, what have you done there, and some of the big moments that you can recollect that you can share with our audience today.
First of all, thank you, Suma, for having me here, and it's a pleasure speaking to you, Adarsh. Talking about my so-called long experience. In B2B sales, I will go back into my early part of my career. And I think a couple of experiences do stand out. This was my first job. I think I was with DCM Data Products, a company which pretty much set up the IT/the computer industry for India. And I was posted in Bombay, and I was associate sales executive. And my area manager told me that, why don't you go and meet an existing customer of ours? So I went, and he's been an existing customer of DCM for quite a while, and I went. Obviously, I was trained thoroughly in various products, and I was reasonably confident on the product knowledge, etc. So I went, met the customer, sat down, and the sales call lasted less than 6 minutes or so. Okay, so besides basic courtesies, I was not even offered tea, forget water, and nothing else. And I was like, okay, something is not right. And he said, thank you, bye, Sanjay. I came back, gave a brief to my area manager, and I told him, like, boss, kuch nahi hua yaar, I've done nothing, came back. I'm not sure if this is how it was supposed to go. So he said, not to worry. And we'll set up another call, and this time I'll go with you. So a week, 2 weeks down the line, we set up another meeting, and this time I accompanied my area manager. And this time I went and I sat down again, but this time I was more as an observer. The meeting lasted 1.5 to 2 hours. I was like, okay. And I can tell you, that was the first and the biggest learning lesson of my life. In that 1.5 to 2 hours, we must have spoken about DCM or our products for about 15 minutes. The rest of the time, it was understanding, discussing the organization's mid to short-term goals, understanding how the client, at that point of time, we never had something called CIO, CTO. At that time, it was called EDPs, electronic data processing rooms and EDP rooms. So this EDP head was talking about where the organization is, what they want to do, and what he's trying to do. It was more about understanding and what they were trying to do. I was like, okay, so that's a massive learning. So that's one thing which I'd like to share is, it's never about you, your products, your company. It's pretty cliched, but that was the first big reality which hit me. The second part in B2B sales was when I was selling mainframes for ICL. We were competing with, at that point of time, IBM, pretty much. And then DEC had come in, DEC. But DEC was still into minis and mainframes. It was only ICL and IBM. And I was given an account to manage. I was given only one account. This was very nervous for me because coming from PC sales, you had either a geographical territory or you had 30, 40 clients you would go to, knock on the doors, get some business. Here you're talking about one customer, meeting your targets from one customer, and that was it. Like, okay. And so we went there. They started joking about me and my clients after about 6, 7, 8 months. I was called the tea man. Nothing to do with the tea for drinking, because I always went on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay. So one client, I had nowhere else to go. So you always went twice a week, built up relationships across everybody in the organization, and did not meet any of my targets that year. So that was the bad news. The good news was the client did not place any order on competition as well. So at least I held status quo. The next year, I picked up the entire business, which that client had to offer. And this is I'm talking about is early 90s. And that was in crores and crores. So again, I learned the value of building relationships and at a very deep level. And that's where I also learned it's about hit rate and closure rate. I could have 100 accounts or 20 accounts. A lot of times I've seen sales managers measure, I've got a pipeline of 50 customers, 40 customers, 30 customers, and feel very happy about it. I have not seen anybody, I will not say anybody, I haven't seen many who focus on closure rate. That if you are working on 10 accounts or 20 accounts, what's your hit rate? What's your closure rate? And that's what I realized from that experience. Like when you have one account, your closure rate is either 0 or 100.
Wow.
And there's no choice. So that's what I started focusing on. If I have 5 accounts or 10 accounts, how many will I close? And the idea was to reach as high as possible. So which is what my, I guess, the foundation learnings were in B2B sales. That's the short of it.
Okay. Now I want you to talk about the space that you are in and what is so unique about this.
Unique is obvious. What's happened is, there are a lot of things which have changed over the years. Okay. The first is the way we give proposals. So when I go back to my earlier days in the same area of, what should I say, the mainframe sales, our average, not an average, but average proposal document was at least 40 to 50 pages long. Typically, if it was a good deep proposal, it will end up in 100, 110, 120 pages. And mind you, that's the time we did not have computers. We had to write the proposal in hand. Then it was typed. And if you made an error, you had to redo it. And the interesting part was, as a part of induction and as a part of sales quality, your engagement with the client, the quality of every aspect of your engagement with the client was given focus on. How you presented yourself, how you spoke, how your proposals looked. It'd be very surprising to learn that in my induction of sales, I was also given a 5-10 minute training on how to punch paper and how to staple paper. Okay.
Wow.
If you are giving 100 documents which are either spiral bound or put in a folder, you can't have even one sheet which is sticking out by even 1 millimeter. Okay.
That's precision.
Yeah, you could not. It was all about how the client saw your proposal at the first look. Now, transition that to now, where you send a proposal on email. If it's somebody who's done effort and done a lot of work, would send 7, 8, 10 pages. It's not only from the sales side, even the clients, so they don't expect long, detailed, in-depth proposals.
Right.
Except I would say the consulting side of the business, where the proposal
Yeah,
is
correct.
run into hundreds and hundreds of slides of presentations, etc. So the challenge is trying to maintain that similar level of quality even in one sheet of paper today. Okay, or even in 2 or 3 sheets of paper. How are you able to communicate precisely, effectively, and sharply? So that's the challenge which we face, or at least I face, as to how to be precise and accurate and still convey the points, quickly. So that's the, I would say, transition which I'm still trying to deal with. Haven't overcome it. Every day I find something new, something interesting to incorporate. So yeah, that's what it is.
Phenomenal. I was just making notes, and I'm seeing how the fundamentals are being uh, taught to us with examples. I'm very impressed with the closure rate conversation that you mentioned, because that's something that many of them have missed for earlier part of my career. I've never heard of it. Now I see there's a lot of stress on that. But I think the fundamentals of it not being about you, but about the customer, because end of the day you're solving it. You don't have to, just because you have a certain product or services doesn't mean you can shove it down the customer's throat. It has to be always, what's the business impact you bring by solving that particular need? And if you're doing that, then you better listen, understand, and then react only optimally.
True.
And I think I love the fact that you went through the relationship, you made a small sale, but eventually, because of the relationship that you maintained, the quality you delivered, how the account grows. We talk about wallet share, we talk about long-term value of a customer, especially now in SaaS industries. If you don't retain a customer for 1.5, 2 years, you're still making a loss in customer acquisition because of the money that you spent on operations, salaries, and all those things. You have to retain a customer long term. So for the LTV value to kick in, you need them to stay with you, renew year on year. And they won't renew or they won't stay if you don't deliver. And there is a lot of demand at every single stage or a milestone. Could be monthly, sometimes on KPIs, SLAs, etc. I'm very intrigued on the point that you mentioned, Sanjay, on the quality piece of it being crisp, but still you deliver that instead of running into pages. What's the role of technology you feel has come in? We have CRM tools, we have all kinds of tools that are available these days. Sales has become very techno-led. I don't want to say compared to our earlier times. I will say compared to my earlier times. But it's very interesting to see how streamlined the technology tools have all evolved over a period of time. It's made life easy, isn't it? I'm
Yes.
not even talking about AI, by the way.
Yes and no. Okay. I use technology for sure, but I do not use it personally. Let's say if sales tools, CRM tools, I've got 100 features. Okay. Typically, that's how any tool is sold. And the effective or optimal utilization of a sales tool or any CRM tool or any tool for that matter is if you use all the functionalities to its hilt. Okay? Then you're underutilizing, not getting the full value of it.
Correct.
But personally speaking, I also believe in simplicity. So if a tool has, for me, 20-30% functionality, which I believe is absolutely critical, I will leverage those 20-30%. At the end of the day, I also try and simplify my sales team's life and my life. The more reports I get, the more I analyze, the more I question, and the more I harass. Okay. So you need to be able to draw a fine balance as to how much data you want and what is the critical data you want. There is critical data and there is desirable data. Okay, so I pretty much operate on critical data. As far as desirable is concerned, I put it in the desirable bucket, personal, professional, everything. As and when one needs it, we'll see it. So focus on the critical data part only. Coming back to your question upon delivering quality, I think it's very important to understand your customer. And I'm not saying it from the point of view of when you say, it's a cliche statement, know your customer, know your business, know their business, and blah, blah, blah. I do not even know how many people realize that selling is a science. It's not a process, but it's a science. Because at the end of the day, you're dealing with human beings. Okay?
True.
And when you're engaging in B2B sales, you're engaging with many people in an organization. And every individual is individual in his or her own behavior. So the ability of the sales guys is to be able to understand for you to what makes each individual tick. Tick may be a wrong word, but what is relevant for each person in the sales, I would say the buying center, as you would want to call it. Okay. It's once you start getting that information and getting a sense, you can position the same thing to 10 different people in 10 different ways. And that is a science. There are people, broadly speaking, who speak more or who speak less.
Correct.
You cannot engage with both sets of people in the same fashion. You've got to be able to adapt and figure out if this person is going to talk more, listen more. So it's the ability of the sales guy to quickly judge that and adapt his style of conversation and trying to keep that engaged. Now, unfortunately, tools don't do that for you. You have to be able to do that yourself. And you should be able to understand how to manage that. And if you're handling 2 or 3 accounts initially, if you're in the sales cycle, if you're in the initial part of your sales career, you would need to document all of this meticulously. Okay. If I've got 10 people in the buying center, I need to map those 10 people. And if I'm tracking them on 10 traits, that means I'm looking at 100 parameters in an organization, which I'm tracking. Okay. No CRM tool does that. So I need to do that, and then I need to look at it because that matrix of 10 by 10 gives me my, weak points glaring at me and saying, okay, this is what I've missed. This is what I need to work on. And that then evolves into a action plan or a sales strategy for the account. Okay. You do it enough number of times, it becomes in your DNA. So that's where the quality part comes into play. If you are able to get that part right, your engagement with your customer is going to be of the highest quality. So
that's awesome. I'm sorry to barge in. As you are saying, I'm being reminded of the long close plans our B2B reps would prepare that would run into multiple decks. All
Yes.
those templates that one followed 20 years ago that
Yes.
kept adding onto the slides, never being crisp. But I'm very happy to notice some of the new age sales reps who use tools, especially the one that I use, where the influence map is very clearly articulated. Obviously, the intelligence comes from, like you rightly said, your experience. You can only articulate in a tool, but it helps in team selling though, because B2B sales, especially when it is large accounts, is a team effort. So I think collective knowledge and wisdom will really help. So I've noticed tools really mapping up somebody in red, which is anti your product. Somebody is green, which is okay. He is a Spock, he or she is a Spock. You can go to them, probably take some ideas on how to proceed, blah blah blah. But decision makers, your CFOs, etc., etc. So I've seen them use that, but intelligence of that sort, I don't think so any tool can do. Like you said, it comes in your DNA as you become a seasoned pro of engaging with accounts. You walk into a big telecom company, you have to white space close to 30-40 senior executives, and forget about the number of mid-level executives under each of it. It's a humongous process. And I've seen some B2B veterans who know where is a senior executive at a given point in day, literally to that extent. They would really map it. There was one during my days back in Oracle, there used to be a rep whom I didn't know that was a rep of Oracle. I thought he was a rep of that telecom company. I really honestly thought they belonged to that company and would visit my office in between. So that's the kind of investment that went in to build that kind of a hold on a customer, isn't it, Sanjay?
Absolutely correct what you're saying. You B2B mapping, large accounts is not a single man's effort, though it's driven by a single person, but it's mapped. So it's important that the data be captured, stored, and shared. No questions on that. Okay.
True.
Also, you never know by chance if the lead account manager leaves, at least the documentation part is there.
Correct. That is there.
Okay. So it's absolutely critical that so that part stays there. But for me, what's more important, not more important, what's also important is the personal motivators of the people in the buying center.
True.
Okay.
True.
And the personal motivators could be professional and personal.
Yep.
Tracking the personal motivators and working on the personal motivators, I have observed, gives you better results. Okay. Because at the end of the day, the personal motivators are driving the professional motivators within the organization.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, tracking those becomes very critical, and those come from hours of conversation with your potential customers and people within the client's organization. You have to be able to make the other person feel comfortable to have open-ended conversations with you. Now that's where lies the challenge and the trick and the science of being able to do that. And which is what I try and push my sales guys to do. And it's very funny, you may laugh, a lot of people do. Some of my sales guys say you are not nice. So if somebody has been managing an account for, let's say, 5-6 months or 7 months, and I happen to visit their territory and I join them on a sales call, midway during somewhere in the building or the complex, I'll ask them, where is the closest washroom? If the salesperson or the account manager does not know quickly where the washroom is, he's not spent enough time in the campus or the building. It's as simple as that. It's one thing to say on the report, I have met my clients, I have been speaking to the client 20 times. But if you have spent enough time in the campus of the building, you would know smaller details where the notice boards are. You learn a lot from the notice boards. I don't know how many people read the notice boards of organizations today. I have picked up my starting or opening conversational dialogues pretty much, I would say 90% of the cases with what's been published or written on the notice boards of an organization.
Wow.
Because that's what the organization is trying to tell to the world, that this is what we are doing, what we want to do. It's as simple as
Exactly. Beautiful.
okay. You missed that part. You missed what's staring in your face. So that's how you try and track. So it's more of a hands-on feel as to what's happening with the sales team in the accounts premises. And so that's how I go about it. So what's critical for me is that, right?
That is awesome. It reminds me of how when you present to, basically you go with your SOW after listening from customers, you try to reiterate their vision and what they want to do. So you put the vision statement. But I like the fact when you pick up these things that are staring at you, there is a sense of a feeling or a credibility that you bring in as a sales manager or a sales rep to your prospect, that they understand you. So you have spent some time, you know what we are trying to do. It feels like you are walking closer to my side of the fence, and you're no longer somebody who's a vendor, you're more like a partner. Or I think these are the subtleties that probably we miss out, especially with online sales being
Yeah.
something that is big. Yeah.
The question I was also coming to, that, most of the selling now is online. So how does this, how do you bridge this big gap now?
I will not even call online selling is selling. I would call it buying. You are doing nothing, the other guy's only buying. Okay, you're only facilitating the process. Okay. So, sorry.
No, Sanjay. I was waiting for you to finish, but I think there is a lag. That's why I butted in. But for me, I was also feeling the same before I joined HubSpot. And after Corona days, when everybody went on online, me being a 2.5-decade-old sales professional, you can understand my eagerness to get back to office, get back to the road, meet customers on the face. But somehow it didn't materialize. Everybody stayed online. And then I noticed how my team, and just sharing some of the inner details here, like they say, necessity is the mother of invention. Suddenly I saw some of the smarter sales guys would do a bit of extra homework. They would know where you spent some time. If you've done a blog or you've done a conversation, they pick up the sound bites. So there is always a very relevant conversation starter because you've done the research. Somehow there is a rapport building or a branding conversation that is happening. I see only 10% of the reps do it. So it's harder, especially in ABM, especially in a larger account. And to what Sanjay was saying, the kind of mapping that we need to do, it's definitely a handicap situation. But I've seen some of them do it in a very unique way. But everything boils down to the pre-work and the research you do before getting into a call. I think gone are the days where you could have been spontaneous. You have to be well prepared. If I didn't know what Sanjay would do now, I would really not come across sophisticated or credible as a salesperson in front of him online.
What you're saying is so true. You have to be innovative. You have to be adaptive to the situation you are thrown in, and you have to pre-prep for all sales calls. There is no substitute for that. So I'm happy the examples you gave, and if people are trying to scout around and pick up talking points from the web with their customers, for their customers, it's brilliant. Going back again to the earlier era, time was absolutely precious in terms of, because you managed B2B accounts, you had 4 or 5 accounts. And if you spend too much time on an account and the account didn't generate anything, you would have lost 20% or 30% of your time straight up front, right?
Correct.
So one of the things which we were taught first thing was, as a part of the pre-prep, was look at the balance sheet of the company you're going to go and work with or deal with, right?
Yeah.
Look at the past 2-3 years, look at the projections, look at the comments given by the bosses as to what they want to do, where they want to take the company.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you would realize that if the client is talking to you and saying, I want to spend 10 crores, 15 crores on your products and services, but you realize, iske paas to paise hi nahi hai, his balance sheet doesn't support it.
Yes.
True.
So you've got to, be able to bite that bullet and have a head-on conversation and either drop the case or convince the system that this is going to be viable for them to invest. I don't see that happening today. Okay. I do not see sales guys trying to even look at the company's balance sheet.
Right.
Trying to figure out how financially strong they are or they're not.
Mm.
They will ask the guy, so do you have budget? And the guy will say yes. Why will he not say yes? Okay. But the fact is you need to be able to validate that.
Right.
Correct.
So yes, pre-work on an ongoing basis, continuous basis is absolutely critical. Validating the information which you're getting from the organization, so cross-referencing is again super critical so that you're never taken up the garden path. Okay. So which is why when you talk about online versus real-time face-to-face sales, I obviously personally enjoy face-to-face because there's far more interaction, there's far more learning. It's not only from the selling point of view. I think the learning for me has maximum been when I have these conversations. In an online sale, you have a time bound 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. You're always looking at the clock for the last 10 minutes, ki yaar, ab meeting khatam ho jayegi, and that's where it's done with. When it's face-to-face, you're having a coffee or whatever, it can extend. That's when you pick up, and that's when you pick up I would say, the nuggets, which could be critical for your sale.
True. And I think when you say that, I'm remembering my first 15, 20 years of my career. I can remember even now whom I have met because I've had such a involved conversation. Even if it is in the office or outside, I will meet them outside. I would know them. But for the last 5 years that I've done maybe thousands of meetings, I think 80% of them, they won't remember me. I won't remember them. Somehow that rapport is missing. So,
True.
Sanjay, I'm just endorsing what you just said.
No, I mean, rapport is the most critical part for me in sale. I mean, we've been in situations where I have lost a deal, but I walked away not burning bridges.
True. True.
And the clients have come back saying next time, and they have come back next time.
Yes.
It's fine. I mean, sure, you want to win all your deals, you will want to have 100% score, which will not happen for sure. But you still got to be able to walk away with a good equation at the end of the day. And that's important.
Exactly.
That brings me to a question. When you have a handful of accounts, sometimes a rep might have a couple of accounts at max. What happens if you're faced with an early disqualification scenario? Somehow you feel, धंधा तो होगा ही नहीं यहाँ पे, तो करेगा क्या? What is your advice for reps who are in that situation? How should they maneuver? Because I think they would have gotten into a tunnel vision. What would be your advice to somebody in your team who has this kind of a situation?
One of the advices given to me by one of my sales managers very earlier on in life is you have not lost the sale till such time the product is delivered and money collected. Okay.
This is another level of, this is deeper.
Yeah. So even if I was thrown out of sales process earlier, I would still track it. Maybe not at that intensity. Still go and see if I was meeting them thrice a week, I'll maybe meet them once a week or once in 2 weeks, but I will follow it up. I will still show my face. Okay. You never know what could go wrong. The negotiations could go wrong. The product delivery may not happen. Anything could go wrong. But if you are in the face of your client and the client sees you, that you are with them despite the fact that you've been told that there's nothing happening here, you're building an additional level of confidence.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I can say that in my career, I've had 2 conversions because of that process.
Wow.
So, I followed till the money was not collected. So I remember that, and that's the statement I would still like to share with everybody else. An order is not lost till the product is delivered and money collected.
This is awesome, especially when it comes to reps these days who don't even make a second call just
Correct.
because the first call didn't go. I read somewhere, I think about 10% of the reps make 6 calls after the first 5 rejections. They continue to engage with the customer even after 5 rejections, and they get the 80% of the revenue. So people who cross over that rejection, and they call the sales guys with thick skin, right? That there is a reason why they call us like that. But I think it's the perseverance that we exhibit, because sometimes I feel the value is not communicated over a call. You're a stranger when you talk to each other first. When you talk to each other again, second time, there is a bit of relationship vaguely. But by the 6th, 7th time, even if you want to shout at the guy, you will be more empathetic and humble. Kyun pareshan kar raha hai?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
at least there is a rapport already. Even if it is not a pleasant rapport, it is a rapport. But then you get that many more opportunities to showcase your value. I like the fact you mentioned about you have not lost a deal till the money is collected. I'm thinking, I lose a deal to a competition. They start working. I wish I shouldn't be walking out just because they said they've chosen somebody. I should be there till they have collected the money out. Because if
Correct.
the money is still in the wallet, then probably something's not done well. And if
Correct.
I'm the person right there, and if
Yeah.
I'm the alternate, like you said, Sanjay, you won a couple of deals. I really want to take this to my team tomorrow in my order.
No, this is the. I mean, I said, thankfully, I've had some very good teachers, and I've learned a lot earlier on in my life, and it's very important in the earlier in part of your.
True.
It's very critical. So, I mean, we try and build strong foundations for the sales guys as early as possible. Like once the habits are formed and set, then it becomes a little difficult, but the earlier on, the better it is.
I'm keen
What's
to
the difference?
channelize our conversation. Sorry, Suma. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, we both are so excited, Suma. We've not been giving you enough time. Please go ahead.
No, I'm just curious that that you both have probably got a lot of good sales mentorship, which is the old days of doing the work, right? Where attention to detail was like so critical, or relationship building, or to even approach that this person is driven by some personal motivators, and that requires you to be a certain different. You also have to work on yourself to be able to perceive that, right?
Sure.
And now, what is the difference? Like, is the sales training, do they get the same sort of sales training? Are they being exposed to this, or do they completely unvalidate this and say, no, we have online and Zoom and this is fine? How does
I'll
it?
let Sanjay answer that first, and then I'll follow.
I try and do that with my sales guys even today. Okay. So, as Adarsh was rightly saying, these account mapping sheets or documents, which were 20, 30, 40 pages long, I understand the mindset of the people has changed both from the client side and the newer generation, which is coming in. So you also got to adapt. I do not expect them to fill 40 pages of account mapping today. Nobody will do it. Okay. So from my side, personally, I have condensed it to about 2 sheets. Okay. Which is where the differentiation or classification of critical and mandatory data comes into play. So if the critical data is being honestly updated, the honestly part is absolutely important. If it is being honestly updated, I would say all the guys actually who do that, honestly, I would say have more than 65-70% of a success rate. Okay, so yeah, so I try and do that even today.
Very nice.
For me, Suma, on that point that you raised, I had to unlearn a lot. As I came into HubSpot, I was somebody who was carrying a heavy baggage of more orthodox way of doing things and not so relevant to higher transactional gain. So there are a lot of companies with volume versus velocity. They balance it out somewhere. If you're running into a treadmill kind of a business where you have to move on from one account to another in the matter of a couple of hours, one meeting here, you're done, you got to go. So with the tools and tech available to you, you're doing more in a day than what probably I would have done 20 years ago. It demands you to do that because the world is moving at the pace that it is moving now. So for me, unlearning was very critical. A proper mentorship, which is not a mentorship that was probably 15 years ago. 15 years ago, I had my bosses, brilliant bosses, amazing fundamentals. But I don't think so. I have to be sticking there only. I should add on to my mentorship list. If I'm a rep, I want to go at somebody who's doing well currently. It could be somebody junior to you, it doesn't matter. Somebody who's doing your work better than you, you should really, really obediently go and learn that, because that is adding value to your own self, your job, your achievements, etc. So thinking of mentorship as a very rigid piece is no longer there. You have to unlearn every other day. Every day when I talk to my team, everybody's young. They're literally 15, 20 years younger than me. And they come out with nuggets that I keep my mouth shut and say, oops, I didn't know this. And then I give them the credit saying, thank you for teaching. And then I master it. I try to master it. And you try to look at the bigger picture and help them in return to look at bigger picture at times, because it's a good balance. So it's a ever evolving process. It's just like the culture we spoke about in one of the other episodes. A culture of a company is not rigid. You add more people, you add people from different backgrounds and perspectives, and culture is an evolving thing, and it evolves along with the people who join you. And it's a beautiful thing to manage culture which is evolving than a culture which is stagnant and asking everybody to come and fit into that. Rather, everybody bring their fullness and then you move it. I think mentorship, training of self is like that. Can I move on and be relevant to the times that I'm operating?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll be dealt with cards that I can't deal with. So I might get pushed away.
No, Adarsh, I think you've hit the nail on the head as far as the current style exists, and with the new generation coming into play, with the new tools coming into play. And I am not, I would say, I'm not saying I'm technology shy,
Tell.
but I am, let's say, like the social media side, the tools. Okay. I am bad and consciously
Same.
bad. Okay,
Same.
I'm bad. But to add to your point, or even give an example to what you said, is so again in B2B account management, sharing of information becomes critical quickly, and leveraging of tools. That's one of the points or technology, leveraging of technology is. So one of my sales guys said, we are 7, 8 of us trying to work on this account across different time zones, different whatever. Why don't we form a WhatsApp group of this account? I was like, so for me, that was a eureka moment. But for them, it was like, it's a simple. Yeah, it was like no-brainer for them. I was like, okay, we have now a WhatsApp group, says client ABC, and all the people associated on that. So anybody who does anything on that gets just posted a quick update at the end of the day. I was like, wow, that's brilliant. Okay, so yes, you have to learn from this lot, and you have to be able to keep yourself open to all this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to. Sorry.
I have come up with a brilliant question. Okay, I think which is brilliant, of course. There's Adarsh on one side who's into SaaS, and there's Sanjay who's into a whole different software solution, which is like a different ball game altogether. So I want Sanjay to first speak about what his product is, what his solutions are, and then I want to see the difference in the way of selling that both of you are actually doing, because there is merit in both right now. I think this is going to be a fantastic sales 101 for the best salespeople on the planet.
Okay, Suma, I'm going to first correct you there.
Yeah.
We don't sell, or let's say, I will not say we don't sell. We don't use the word solutions so loosely.
Okay.
Okay. I think 99 or 999 people out of 1,000 say, I'm giving you this solution.
Right.
Okay. How can I give you a solution if I don't know your problem?
Correct.
So before you go to a client and say, I have these 10 things and I give you these 10 solutions, the first thing I tell my guys is you will never use the word solution before understanding the problem. I may be having 10 products, but they may not be fitting your problem.
Exactly.
I don't have a solution for you. I'm sorry, but I don't have it for you. So it's the first thing we need to learn. So yeah, Adarsh now.
Strangely, it doesn't change even in SaaS. The first thing that we emphasize is the discovery call, which is nothing but you discover something you don't know about your customer or prospect. And all you're doing is using what God told us. You got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you listen double of how much you speak. So we make the customer tell us what is that they're facing, what is that they're looking for. And many of the times I've seen my team members say, gentlemen, I think your problems can be solved by a competitor of mine. You should go there. They don't even pitch our product. That is when you have understood somebody better. And that's being truly customer's advocate. And we emphasize on that because we don't want to sell wrong, oversell, undersell, all those things. You want to sell to somebody, like Sanjay said, who will stay with you for long, who will give you repeat business and stays as customer for life. So discovery call, where you understand what is being felt at the customer's place, what is that they're aspiring to get over with, and then can you really connect to your product or services and fix it. You don't have to sell everything you have in your price list. You only use what is the most optimum thing that will give relief to the customer. And when you give relief to the customer, you make them happy. Happy customer always stays with you. Very simple. But I'm very happy Sanjay brought that up, because some of the fundamentals haven't changed, be it our large account sales, which is on probably annuity basis, versus a very transactional SaaS business. It doesn't matter. Like Sanjay opened up this session, it's the relationship based conversation. You understand the other party better. Many reps lose that essence. They don't have that at this moment because they are chasing one call after the other call after every 30 minutes of capsules. At the next 30 minutes, you are out of this. So somewhere the investment of time, effort, and your intent is missing. When you don't invest, you don't listen. When active listening is missing, you don't get enough information. If you don't have enough information, you cannot structure a proposal. Whatever you structure is based on the little information you have. It will come across superficial. You don't cut ice with the customer. People will only give you an order when they realize you have understood them best. And then you add value with your best practices. I've seen other bigger places, they do this. Why don't you do this? Then you're an advocate. Yeah. Back to you, Sanjay, if there is anything else that you want to pull up, and I can probably relate it to how we do it.
See, there are so many times customers say, this is what we need. They pretty much give you a draft bill of material. Okay. Most sales guys will look at the draft bill of material, put a price tag to it, give a quotation, gone. Okay. So what I tell my sales guys is, you're not doing it. You've got to challenge the customer why that bill of material. Okay. Then the sales guys push back saying, yeah, but he knows what he's buying. And he's given you a bill of material. He wants the quotation tomorrow. Okay. Why can't we do it? I said, you can do it. I'm not saying no. Okay. But the reality is, if you were to challenge the customer, you have to understand that you are the people who know your products and services better than the customer.
Right.
The customer has picked it up from somewhere, either through his past experience, even current experience, or referred, or whatever. But there is always an advantage to challenge the customer's thought process. Okay. And invariably, we found the customer, I would say more than 50% of the cases, the customer has changed the bill of material because he picked up some new things. It not necessarily increased our bill of material. In some cases, it got reduced. But either case, the situation was that the customer felt more comfortable and he felt that he could trust the salesperson or the sales team more. So it's always good to challenge the customers, and you should not feel scared about it. Okay?
Yeah.
At whatever level you are in your sales hierarchy,
Yeah.
please challenge the customer's thought process. It's only good for both of you. That's all.
And same thing applies to my kind of selling that we do in HubSpot. If you are not asking the 4 whys, you will never get them to really tell you the honest problem, because sometimes they also don't know.
Correct.
There's Google now, there is enough information. You as a company, you want to lead and become a thought leader via content. So you published enough article. So a customer who walks in and meets you for the first time already knows about your product. So unlike good old days where you sit and then explain them something, they know either. Otherwise, they wouldn't speak. So most of the times, if they have booked a meeting and they're coming to talk to you, they've done their homework. Might not be as complete as you would expect them, but there is enough information available freely. And the word of mouth is crucial. So they would have come to the table with a bit of knowledge. So I think it is very important to really narrow it down, like Sanjay said, specific areas that you can solve. You can't solve the universe for them. If you could, then you would be the only monopolist that is happening. Sanjay, I thought you got a spark there. You wanted to say something. I noticed you.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of my experiences. Actually, I've learned a lot from my experiences on how many times I've tripped, actually. So this is one of the situations where we had just launched email in the country. Okay, this was with Sprint. And it was a process where we were trying to educate the market what email is and etc. Anyway, so I get this walk-in customer, potential client, and he comes and sits and says, I want an email for my son. I was like, wow, this guy's really advanced dude, man. So, and I said, okay, what's your application? What do you want to do and all that stuff? I wanted to be sure he understood email or whatever. So we had a 10, 15, 20-minute conversation all around that. And then I asked him, how old is your son? I mean, this guy looked relatively youngish to me. And I was like, he is indulging his son into email. That's awesome, man. Okay. And I'm talking about mid-90s. Then he laughed and he laughed and he laughed. I was like, what went wrong here? He's saying it's for my son's server, not son. Okay.
Okay.
I had no clue at that point of time that sun servers were available.
Yeah.
And he
It
would
just
refer to them as, my son. I'm like, okay.
It just brought me to one of my first experience in Oracle when I was a business development rep. I was calling to somebody in Chandigarh and they wanted, so we used to sell something called disaster recovery site. Basically, we were selling another database which will make sure it is live when something happens here. And I said, are you interested in that? They said, yes, preferably around Chandigarh area. And he was talking about a 30-40 slide and a 60-40 slide. And I created an opportunity, went to my manager, and I got an earful of that. So we've had these experiences when we are not well informed.
The sun joke also reminded me of one place where I used to work. The administrator of the sun server was called the father of the sun.
Yeah, that is true.
That is nice. I wanted to quickly navigate before we wind up on Sanjay, your experience with working on a distribution strategy around channels and alliances around ABM, because that's a piece that is critical. Any nuggets around that, any experiences that you want to share and advise the listeners, please?
Okay, so again, experience led. I joined Raritan about 18 years ago. Okay. And prior to Raritan, most of my experience had been in B2B sales, direct engagement and stuff. Raritan, when I joined the organization, it was a channel-driven organization. And this was new to me completely. I'm not saying I haven't dealt with channel, sure, we've dealt with channel in the past, etc., etc. But being solely dependent on channel for your business, asking the channel every day, pipeline, sales metrics, etc., etc. I felt I'm operating like with, my one hand tied behind my back, because I never got a true sense of what was happening. Okay. And I was not being able to face the end customer as much as I would have liked. You could see that the channel was consciously holding you back and pushing you back in terms of trying to keep you away. I understood that. Maybe you want to make more margins, etc., etc. But I'm making it for yourself. Sure, why not? Okay. But I still needed to get a better sense of what was happening in the market without upsetting the channel. Okay. And so I decided that I will engage with the channel, with the end customer directly. And I started doing that, and I started pushing my sales guys to do that. And I realized that we were providing a better service, a better, let's say, solution in that sense of what would better suit the customer. Channel was going with, okay, this is the product, this is what you need, it's a good product, value updated, go, go, go. Okay. So, but by doing so, we did not cut the channel out. So we evolved into kind of a hybrid model where we were engaging with the end customer, providing, I would say, quality solution, or a better solution, with no disrespect to channel per se. Okay, but the reality is the channel partners are dealing with 10 products and they are trying to optimize their time. Okay, we are dealing with one set focused. So our approach was different, or more engaging, let me say. We could spend more time with the client than the channel would do so. And then we would leverage the channel for, let's say, testing, POCs, installation, commissioning. So the channel kind of evolved very happily, saying, okay, we are making relatively less effort in sales. We are still getting the business. We are not competing with the organization. Okay. So it became a win-win situation for all the three parties concerned. The client was happy. We were in control of what was happening. We had a better view. The channel was also happy. Okay. So it was a triple win from all sides. And I think,
Nice.
Above all this, what indirectly, which we realized at hindsight, this was whatever, was the fact that because you are engaging with the end customer yourself, the ability to forecast business was far more accurate than when you were dependent on channel's ability to forecast.
Right.
So our forecasting capability or accuracy went up from about 65, 68% when we were dealing with channel to nearly 97, 98%.
Wow.
Awesome.
Okay. Now, which was huge for the organization. We were able, then you understand the whole process at the back end of inventory management, sourcing, financing, blah, blah, blah. All stuff happens. Now that became absolutely critical. So we've kind of evolved into a situation where it's a hybrid model. A lot of times I get a pushback from the field saying, but this customer, we should pick up a direct order, blah, blah, blah. Not happening. Okay. We have to respect the channel. They bring a lot of value to us. So it's a hybrid model which we have worked and done well with so far, unless and until there are more compulsions coming into play or market dynamics which force us. But I don't see anything in the near future.
It is customary for us to talk about generally artificial intelligence and all those things, but I think that is something that I would want to skip unless, Suma, you have a very pressing need to discuss that topic.
No, I don't think so. I think the focus we have generated within this is, I think, perfect, and I think this is where we should probably end and make it concise.
Yeah.
So I'm going to now thank Sanjay for his, for showing, he had to, he managed his schedule just to fit us our schedules, and it has been great. And I know we have had some technical hassles, but thanks Sanjay for being here and being so insightful. And so I think a lot of people, especially the sales, young sales managers right now, I think they're going to learn a lot from you.
Thank you so much for having me here. And I think it's been a pleasure also speaking to you, Adarsh.
So easy to converse with you, so amazing to listen to you. And I think it's the same sentiment that our listeners will also feel the moment they listen to this episode.